Also, you can check out my website or my Patreon, which is where I usually do my lesson thing because it's really easy for everybody. It does like an automatic renewal, and you can cancel out anytime you want. And they take a percentage and everything from my end, but I find it's worth it because they make it so easy on me and on my students. Cool. I don't. Uh, there's a link to it on my page. Let me show you here. Oh, you know what? My next student just said I'll be a few minutes late, but I'm on my way. So look at that. It works out in our favor. All right. So here's my Patreon page. Are you familiar with Patreon? The way Patreon works, it's like it's basically like a platform for artists. And the idea originally was someone like me would say, "Hey, I'm working on a new album, and I'm a starving artist. Help support me," you know. And so that's why things are like Patreon as opposed to patron. And they do pledges, and there's like the word support all the time. But I personally am not in favor of that approach at all. I I have philosophical views that are not very congruent with the idea of handouts, asking for them. And what I'd rather do, plus it's no fun. Begging is no fun. What's more fun is offering something in exchange, you know? So what I do is basically I use it, even though that's the way it was originally worded, I use it just as like an exchange medium. So like if somebody signs up for lessons, some students, they pay me directly through PayPal, because they don't have a frequent kind of schedule. Maybe, you know, they just, one of them just had a kid, for example, and, you know, chaos. So but people who take regularly, like once a month, even that's regularly still. It's not ideal. Or once every other week. Like I have one student in England who does the first and third Tuesdays of every month, for example. Some students, they do once a week, that kind of thing. Once a week really is best from a learning. It'd be better to do 1/2 hour a week than 1 hour every 2 weeks or that kind of thing, because the consistency is really nice. But anyway, basically what the Patreon is it's just a way to simplify the scheduling, you know, and so every month it's basically just taken care of for everybody, and they can cancel it anytime you want. It's very consumer friendly. But anyway, yeah, that's why I use Patreon, and they do the payments through PayPal. And I'll link you my website in case you haven't seen it. Oh, all right, cool. Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the sampler is from albums. Yeah, I've released 8 albums. Although 2 of them I don't promote anymore because it was in a duo scenario, and I did everything really except sing. And I like 99% of the lyrics I did not do. Aside from singing and most of the lyrics, I did everything. And then the other person kind of decided they were going to quit, but they wanted to take it with them. And so I could promote it, but any sale of those albums goes into someone else's bank account, and I don't even know that the sale happened, let alone. So, you know, the way I decided I could either take the viewpoint that those albums are priceless, and in which case they must be fought for like they were children, and I could lose sleep every night and feel rage every morning, and try to fight with somebody whose parents are brain surgeons, and you know, who could, and it's just like, or I can see that well, they may be priceless to a listener because they're one of a kind. They could be priceless to her because, you know, that there's a finite resource. But are they really priceless to me? I can just make more. Is that that may very well, I thought to myself, it's very important for me to try my best to be objective all the time. And so I go, I don't want to choose which one of these will make my lifestyle easier, which one will make me feel better. I don't want that. I want to choose which one is correct, which one is actually accurate. And although there is a mild sense of sadness I have that those albums, which have some good moments, I'd say even some masterpiece moments, which I feel proud of, things I didn't know I would achieve before I walked into them, as I feel with all my albums. Oh, I would surprise myself. A person can achieve more than even they know, just with enough consistent effort. But aside from that, I thought, well, I'm the fountainhead of this scenario here. Like, I've done it once, I can do it again, and in theory, the next time I do it, it ought to be better, provided that I haven't lost any strength of backbone, willpower. But my knowledge and everything is grown, and so yeah, I took that approach. That's why I have 6 albums for sale on the website, but I have 8 albums, which hopefully will be on my Wikipedia after I'm dead, not before. $25 for half hour. But I tend to be extremely lenient with the time. I usually run over. I hope that someday I won't be able to run over because I'll have, another student. But as it is right now, I usually go over a little bit. But it's technically a half hour. I don't like to leave a student with any questions, so I will usually run over for that reason. Like the clock's getting near, I go, okay, we should clear anything up before we go and that kind of stuff. So yeah, 25 and a half hour. But I've also got this thing where I do streams. And what a stream is exactly what we're doing right now, except for where any number of, not pre-recorded actually. The things that you may have seen like that are posted after the fact, meaning like recording now and then I'll edit a moment or something. But no, it's live like this. The difference between a stream is that it's the idea is that I would have 5-6 people in here with us right now, and so the topics would be more general. I'd like to do streams like beginner streams, intermediate streams, advanced streams, improv streams, songwriting streams. Even if people are interested, even mixing and mastering streams, or even learning and teaching streams. You know what I mean? Like psychology streams, how to feel about a certain thing while you practice. What are different ways that one could feel about practice? Because I spent a lot of time thinking about that and discovering about it myself and working with other students and finding that different approaches work for different people, and they work for different people in different ways and at different times. Whether it's a football go team, kind of approach, or if it's your kind of like meditative approach. It's like even the time of day that you practice can influence that. So basically what I mean to say is that the idea of streams are basically group lessons, or sometimes what I'd like to do is I like to think of something I want to practice and I'll stream it. And the idea would be like, it's like, imagine I sit down today to practice a certain concept like counterpoint guitar or something. And then anyone joins me. It's like they come to my house and hang out and we do it together, and the idea would be like, I'm working on this, here we go. And then anybody can ask a question anytime. So there's what I call practice alongs and group lessons. Now, the thing about these are that I'm down to do one virtually anytime, within like some notice. And I used to just do it and then invite people and to see who would show up. And if they show up, that's cool. And if they don't, that's fine. But what I found is that, like, sometimes it's like, well, I kind of would like to be working on an album right now. So what I've decided to do is that I do it on request. And now most of my students are too embarrassed or something, or too shy to request one. But I encourage them to. And so basically it's upon request, but I'm down to do one any day, pretty much. I teach quite a lot on Wednesday, so that day might be a little bit booked up, but yeah. So any student of mine, any online student, has access to all that other stuff. So if you pay for like let's say one lesson on the first and a lesson on the third week of a month, let's say, so bi-weekly more or less, depending on the month. You could still join a stream in one of those in-between weeks if you wanted. Right now, my streams are a bit sparing, just because many people aren't asking for them, and they're also very generous. They would become more appropriate as a business model, even though I'll do it now. They become more appropriate as I would have more students, because it'd be like a big communal type thing. And if I have a stream where one person shows up, it's a private lesson in disguise, right? Which I'm not opposed to anyway. My thing is that I'm hoping to provide the best lessons at the best rate. Really, I want to undercut the market in terms of like providing something much higher quality and for much less dough. And I'm hoping that I'll make up the difference in quantity of students, and that's really made easier by the fact that I'm at home, chillaxing, and you're at home, and that no one has to go anywhere, and that I could hopefully reach students from all over the world, like in Washington, or a couple of my students are in the UK and Eastern states and things like that. So that's the idea behind it. I enjoy it quite a lot. I like live in-person lessons too. They're very appropriate for people who are old enough to where they have trouble with computers, or young enough to where they have trouble with access to computers or things like that. So there are some nice things that in-person lessons are for. Piano is kind of a little bit nicer in person, but guitar and bass are awesome online. Yeah, the best way to do it, I would recommend. Now, of course, it's entirely up to you. You could do anything you want. You could take one lesson every however many months. It's all fine and dandy. What I recommend as a teacher, and from experience with many students, what seems to invariably work best is I really do recommend one lesson a week. Anything less than that is fine, and just less ideal, basically. So if you did one every other week, that'd be fine too. I would recommend that over once a month, even if it's the same amount. Like if you did 1 hour a month, or you did 2 half-hour lessons a month, the 2 half hours would be better. Frequency that way and consistency is best. And also you can hit me up on Facebook anytime. I make myself open to students. This is another thing about online lessons that are not available for in-person lessons and conventional, traditional style lessons, is that like if you have a question, you don't generally call up your guitar teacher 2 days later and ask him, online, however, I do that. So you can if you go, hey, on our lesson the other day we talked about this and I forgot something you said. What was it? This and that. Then I'll just answer. Usually through Facebook. So yeah, I forgot to mention that's also a thing. Anything like, hey, who's a good jazz guitar player or something, or who's a good whatever, and then I forward links and everything. It's very much a friendly thing. It's professional in the sense that I feel an obligation to. Oh, one moment. I feel an obligation to provide a high quality service, but beyond that, it's just it's me talking about the thing I love most in life with music, with new people and everything. So it's all good. All right, dude. Yeah, dude. I look forward to it. Yeah. Message me on Facebook anytime. Check out my Patreon. There's a whole list of different, they call them rewards because, again, they go by but basically it's just different programs. Cool?